I'm still not sure exactly how I feel about that intro. It seems a little harsh. I mean, I feel like I deserve something, don't I? Maybe it's just a swift kick in the ass. What do I know? Welcome to the ZC Show. We are live. It is Wednesday, 7 o'clock. February 11th, by the way, if you're keeping track at home. We got a lot to get to today. Certainly, we will talk Tigers. Justin Verlander makes his return to the Motor City. And that comes with some bad Detroit Tigers news as well. At least it does, in my opinion, right? The Verlander signing was a good one, but it was a necessity. The Tigers had to do this, and I'm going to tell you why. Plus, we'll talk Pistons. Numbers in for beef stew and for Jalen Duren. And by numbers, I mean suspension numbers. Man, what a sight that was a couple nights ago. In fact, the Pistons are going to play right here in a second. We'll talk Lions too. Dan Skipper, retired, but will now join the Lions coaching staff. I got some thoughts on that. I can't stop coughing. I've got this head cold. I was telling my coworkers earlier I get sick like once every, 3 years, and I feel like I'm going through it right now. We'll talk a little bit about the Olympics. I saw one of the weirdest things I've ever seen on live television, and one of my favorite 90s actors. We will remember the Beek. And look, for me, I'm still crying about Arizona losing on Monday in basketball to Kansas. And I'm sure y'all Michigan fans are thrilled, right? Rejoicing. I mean, Michigan likely to be number one in the next poll. They're playing tonight at Northwestern. Pistons in Toronto this evening. I'll be recording through both of those. So outcomes of those games unknown as you listen to this, at least to me, but likely they'll be known to you. So let's start with the Detroit Tigers. And Justin Verlander coming back to Detroit, right? This is not hot news anymore. 1 year, $13 million. And look, when Justin was here between 2005 and 2017, the Tigers were amazing. He was amazing. Verlander led the Tigers to 5 playoff appearances. They went to the World Series twice. He won a triple crown in 2011. MVP, Cy Young Award winner, Rookie of the Year, 6-time All-Star. A dominant personality in Detroit. And it was more than just him as an athlete. It was him as an embracer of Detroit and what Detroit is and what we need and what we want. He was very, very good at that. So am I excited to have him back? Hell yeah. Absolutely. I mean, pitchers and catchers have reported, which is nuts. I mean, it feels like we've been locked in this frozen tundra for weeks. God, I almost put on shorts yesterday when it was 40. Living in Michigan is weird. But like seeing the shots of Verlander and Skubal together in Tigers uniforms in Lakeland is nuts. Especially with Frambler, Valdez wandering around in the background. I mean, that's not what I don't think that's what any of us thought. The Frambler Valdez signing was not a total surprise. There's been a lot of talk about that. The Verlander signing was a necessity, right? Why? Because now we know that Reese Olson is out for the season, right? He missed a good chunk of 2025. He's going to miss all of 2026. I mean, the same thing-ish with Jackson Jobe, huge chunk of 2025, huge chunk of 2026. The Tigers' young pitching has taken a hit when it comes to health. And is 42-year-old Justin Verlander the answer? I think he is right now. And he's not the answer. He's part of the answer. And look, he's had his ups and downs. But when the lights are the brightest, he is still fabulous. I mean, he had an outing last year of 120 pitches. I think it was in August. We've seen Justin Verlander. He's one of those guys that it's not going to be as true as it used to be. But if you remember, he would only throw harder and get better as the game goes on. Very much like Tarik Skubal does now. But I think with Verlander, he still has that dog in him, right? He's a wicked competitor. And I think he is anxious. Look, he's gotten his World Series, right? He is a world champion. And he already had all the other accolades here in Detroit. He's got one thing left on his mantle. There's one spot that's missing, and that's a World Series in a Tigers uniform. And I think if you're him scripting it out, this is his last year. They win a World Series. He goes down in all the glory, and everybody's happy. And if it doesn't work out, so be it, right? This was a really cheap signing for the Tigers. It's one of those deferred deals, right? I think he gets $2 million up front, and then starting in 2030, he'll get the rest, or they'll owe him the rest starting in 2030. So this was, I don't know about a hometown discount, but it was a favorable deal for everybody. And I'll tell you what, there is going to be some electric nights at Comerica Park coming up. And we knew that anyway. But I mean, just imagine the first time Verlander takes the mound. Imagine him taking the mound in a prime time situation. Imagine Verlander in the playoffs on the mound in 2026 in a Tigers uniform. I mean, if he's your fifth starter, we'll talk about this in a second, but if he's your fifth starter, that means from the back end of the rotation to the top, you go from Verlander to Skubal to Valdez. And they don't need Justin Verlander to be the Justin Verlander he was in 2012 or 2005 or 6 or 11 or whatever. They have that guy, and his name is now Tarik Skubal. Of course, with the Tigers pitching, there's a lot of uncertainty. Right? I mentioned both Reese Olson and Jackson Jobe. Huge question marks because of massive injury problems. And with Skubal, the overwhelming thought is he's not coming back. I don't think the Tigers are going to trade him, but I don't think they're going to sign him either. I think they're going to let it ride on this season. Okay. But what about 2027? Look, I understand that people in this town are tired of waiting to win later. You hear a lot of front offices around here talk about that. And the Tigers are one of the worst, right? They've been blocking spots for the kids forever. So I'm interested in winning now, but there is a conversation to be had about pitching in 2027. So what does the rotation look like now? I think it's relatively obvious, depending on a couple of things. But I mean, look, Skubal, Valdez, Flaherty, Mize, Verlander. That's pretty much a lock. I think that there are some other variables, a couple other possibilities. I think you could have a Mize regression. Jack Flaherty, I mean, they're paying him the money, but he's going to have to be better. And then you wonder about Verlander and his health. Right, again, 42 years old, and you look at anybody's health. And I still think there's a place in this rotation at some point for Troy Melton. Does that happen maybe next year? Because if you look at the Tigers rotation this year, like I'm projecting, you can probably subtract 2 people from that right now. You're 1 and you're 5. No Skubal, no Verlander. Maybe they extend Verlander, maybe they don't. But I don't think they're going to sign Skubal. So now what do? Can you slide a Troy Melton into one of those spots? Is Reese Olson or Jackson Jobe good enough to take one of those spots? I mean, ideally, you get Jackson Jobe back this year, and he's able to contribute. But I think in a realistic world, Jackson Jobe has his big contribution moments in 2027. But look, I want to talk about winning now and what the Tigers did. That move bringing in Verlander, it's not an earth-shaking move, but it has signaled that this team is going to spend some money, right? Does that mean they're going to do it now? Will they make deals at the deadline? The Tigers have so many prospects. If the Tigers wanted to go out and get a bat or two, it will not be hard with the assets they possess. And I know the Tigers love their own farm system. And look, you should love your own farm system. If you hate your own farm system, we've got some problems. You're in charge of your own farm system. It's like making your own lunch and be like, man, this lunch blows. It's like, yeah, dog, you made it. Fix it. Right? So I understand being enamored with your farm. But you gotta, to me, the purpose, the function of a good farm system is to do two things. And ideally, it is to produce a lot of young talent. And the Tigers have been pretty good at that. Some of it, though, is bargaining. It's chips. You got to use some of what you have to acquire something else. Potential talent. Excuse me. Good Lord. I'm telling you, I can't stop coughing. Here, wait, hold on. Whiskey helps. I lost my train of thought. Where was I before I almost choked to death? Anyway, with the Tigers, overall, this team is in a position to win. This fan base is craving some success. You know what I mean? The last couple of years, last year was fun until it really sucked. Right? I mean, the last month of the season was just torture. And then you flip it around the year before that, in 2024, the first half of the season was terrible, and they become the hottest of fire and make it to the playoffs. Can we just get one? And I'll say this to the Red Wings too. Can we just get one where, like, you're good start to finish? And I have to hope the Pistons are listening too, because the Pistons are off to a great start. I'll talk about them in just a second. I'm excited for what the Tigers have done here. And I think it'll pay off. What does that mean? Well, look, it means that the AL Central is not great. So this should be a playoff team anyway. And this should be a team that's looking for, a high seed in the American League playoffs. And if that takes some dealing of some prospects later in the year, then let me see it. But am I happy about Verlander? Yeah, totally. Why wouldn't I be? Let's talk Pistons. Detroit basketball. All right, so the numbers are in. I mean, you all saw this, right? No, right? Like, the reason that he got so many is because he was not in the game when it happened. The NBA's got very strict rules about coming off the bench to participate in a fight. You can't fight anyway, but you really can't fight, if that makes sense, off the bench. So the numbers are in. Beef Stew gets 7. This is his 5th time being suspended, by the way. 4 times for fighting and 1 time for excessive technicals. Bridges and Diabate, they get 4 apiece. Duran gets 2. It's funny because Duran started this. I mean, that little slap of Diabate was, to me, I mean, look, if somebody hit me in the face like that, I would be super, 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 super angry. But I was shocked. I wonder if Duran said something. Do you think Duran said something? The way he responded, Diabate did, somebody had to have yelled something at him, because he, all of a sudden, after about a minute into the fight or into the skirmish, he becomes incensed. And it's after he's been hit. It's not the hit that initially makes him as angry as he gets. But I mean, for a while, they almost had to carry him off the court into the tunnel. I wasn't sure how they get that one under control for a while. I was at the Malice at the Palace game, and obviously we didn't get anywhere near that. I mean, obviously the level of fighting that you saw from professional basketball players at the Malice at the Palace was shocking. But we all know the most shocking thing was that fans started fighting too. And I don't know if you were watching that game, but as soon as that skirmish broke out, the number of massive men in very nice suits standing in a square around the outside of the basketball court, I guess that would be a rectangle. They were taking no chances. I don't think there was any fan altercation, interaction, whatever. But I mean, again, the major difference in any fight you see in an NBA game between anything and the Malice at the Palace was, crowd participation. And I'll tell you what, man, I wouldn't want to fight any of these guys. I am 5.5 feet tall and not very strong. So, it would be very quick for me on the losing end. But, like, man, the way Beef Stew comes off the bench. I mean, look, let's look at it again. Coaching staffs are wearing black, so I couldn't tell who was who. It was just a bunch of guys wearing black pants and shirts trying to restrain two guys. And the Miles Bridges, that was a cheap shot. Then he tried to take on Duran. Came out of nowhere, tried to hit him in the face. Should Beef Stew have done that? No. No. We know this. The Detroit Pistons are the best team in the conference. All games matter. Every single minute the Pistons play is a minute of consequence. That's the joy and the pain of being a title contender. It all matters all the time. The very first minute of the first game to the very last second of the last game. Everything in between was of consequence. And the thing, like, again, this is the fifth time. Remember the first one? He had LeBron James rethinking all of his life choices. It was like 4 years ago now, I think. So, again, 4 suspensions because of actions like this. And then one of them, he had the Rasheed Wallace thing going on where if you get, I don't know how many it is, 12, 16, too many technicals, you get suspended. But what I don't like is, because I mentioned it earlier, Detroiters love when you buy in to their culture and their philosophy and their way of doing things. And I think for the most part, Detroiters feel overlooked, disrespected, thought less of. And so when guys like Beef Stew go out there and take up for their teammates and do it in a way that, isn't subtle, it harkens back to the Bad Boys, which fond memories for Detroit fans, 2 NBA championships. But we need Beef Stew available. The best version of Beef Stew is the one that's allowed to play. So it's a choices thing, right? Like, it's an impulse thing. I'm all for him taking up for his teammate, but he knew that he was going to get a vacation for doing that. 1, because the NBA's strictness on leaving the bench, and 2, because he's a repeat offender. In fact, I thought he was going to get more. I really did. I thought maybe it's 10, 15. At some point, you think the NBA's got to say, hey, man, this is becoming a thing. It needs to stop. And a way to do that is to inflict as much pain as possible in the punishment area. And I feel like the referees, or excuse me, the NBA officials, higher than the referees, the brass, they did not do that. And look, I'm not going to complain. Oh, no, that was unfair. Please suspend my guy for more. No, dude. I would have suspended him for 2, like Duran got. But it's not smart basketball. It feels good in the moment, and I'll watch that highlight over and over. Well, he's going to miss 7 hours of game time. Wait. Did I do the math right? Whatever. It's a ton. Never been good at math. But again, is that 13-second clip worth it? Oh. It's not my money. But again, my favorite version of Beef Stew is when it's available. That said, one time for Paul Reed. He came in that Charlotte game and was great. Every time they need him, he's been a guy, because it's going to happen, especially in the playoffs. You're going to have a guy foul out. There's going to be somebody get hurt, or something will happen. You need to surprise like 10 points out of somebody. Way to burst. An unexpected. And Paul Reed has shown in the regular season that he can be that guy. And I'm hoping in the playoffs, with everybody healthy and together, he can be that guy and then some. So what do we think? Yay or nay on the 7 games for Beef Stew? Look, I thought it was going to be more, so I'm taking it. Bridges and Diabate got 4. That's fair. And, Duran, the little slap that started it all, he gets 2 for flinching. All right. On the Lions front, we talked about last time the Lions need to retool their offensive line, right? And there's no shock there. That's not a hot take. Their offensive line aged poorly and is now thin. And part of that is in the reserve section, and a guy like Dan Skipper, right? Dan Skipper was, if he's your 6th or 7th offensive lineman, especially because he was so big and yet versatile enough to where if you really had to, he could catch a pass, play tight end, which he did frequently. He didn't catch a ton of passes, but more than most 7-foot tall offensive linemen do. Certainly, in fact, I think he is the biggest person in NFL history to ever catch a pass. Don't quote me on that. In fact, no, do quote me on that. In fact, Zach Clark said that Dan Skipper was the tallest dude ever to catch. Yeah, you say that. You quote me on that one. But now we know Dan Skipper is joining the coaching staff. It checks all the boxes, in my estimation, right? If you're talking about things that Dan Campbell likes, right? I'll use some of Dan's phrases. He'll say about Skip, I know him and he knows me, or we know him and he knows us. They love that. He'll say, Skip knows what we're about. He knows what this is about. You hear that a lot in the preseason, in camp. And we know that MDC, sometimes I can't speak. We know, which is tough because you talk for a living, right? We know MCDC likes to hire former players as coaches. And I do like that. If you look from the original staff, I swear to God, if I cough again, I'm going to kill somebody, probably myself. From the original staff to now, the percentage of coaches has gone down a little bit, but it's still way up there. And a lot of these guys are young. And I like that. And it's not like they're asking Dan Skipper to lead the offensive line or to be the offensive coordinator. Right? Like, they haven't defined his role yet, but we do know that the assistant O-line coach, Steve Oliver, has been promoted to the tight ends coach. So there's an opening there. And Seth Ryan was the old assistant tight ends coach. He's now the quarterbacks coach at Syracuse. There's an opening there. Both of those would make sense. Right? Or does he end up going the even more junior route, right? Like quality control analyst or something like that. I don't think so, but I don't know. Look, I don't know what kind of conversations they've had. And I don't know. I mean, I know what Dan Skipper's like as a player, and he's a smart guy. He's a thoughtful guy. He's a talented guy, but I don't know what he's like as a coach. And, I think sometimes we think coaching is too easy. And I'm not trying to give pity to coaches because they make an ass load of money. But like, I lived in Arizona for about 11 years. And Wayne Gretzky was the head coach of the Phoenix Coyotes, right? And, people are like, oh, man, Wayne Gretzky, the great one. That did not work out. Didn't work out. Doesn't always translate. Alan Trammell here in Detroit, God bless him. Just because you played, I mean, even with what's-his-face, Phillip Rivers. He was coaching in high school. He throws like 20 NFL passes. They're like, hey, you want to be the head coach of the Buffalo Bills? Like, are you kidding me? The Bills? A contender? First-time coach? Well, he coached in high school. He knows the NFL. I don't know what it's like to be a coach, but I've covered sports for a decade and a half. I know what the demand is. I know what the level of knowledge is required. And I know that a guy like Phillip Rivers, or even a guy like Dan Skipper, can progress through the ranks, but you got to start somewhere. I mean, the Phillip Rivers thing was nuts to me. Nuts. You want to coach the Bills? I mean, it felt way too casual. Hey, what are you doing? Like next August, maybe you want to come to Buffalo and like, you coach the Bills, man. We've been winning some football games, but
you stupid bitch.
Just seems silly. Oh, Zach, that's not very nice.
Just kidding.
So, Dan Skipper, undefined coaching role, Detroit Lions, more to come. So, the Olympics are on. I love the Olympics. I love the Olympics for a few reasons. One, because it's continuous sports for like hours and hours and hours. And I work from home. And so I love a good day sport, right? Golf on the weekends, Grand Slam tennis, right? Because I'm at home during the day and I can watch sports, the tournament when it happens. So Olympics fits in that mold for me too. It's a day sport. Love myself a good day sport. And also I love how some of the sports, in the Summer Olympics, they're like, what we should do, like, what if we just ran like 100 meters and we'll see who the fastest is. In the Winter Olympics, they're like, yeah, I'm going to have to ask you to cross-country ski, but here, hold this gun because you're going to need it. It's like, what? Who invented the biathlon? No, we're going to ski, but like, we're going to use a gun. While you're skiing, no, you're going to stop and hit a target. And then you're going to ski again. I don't know. Like, can you... Because cross-country skiing is incredibly difficult, but if you're a good enough shooter, can you just get through the cross-country skiing part? Or the other way around? I don't know. Anyway, the biathlon is crazy enough as it is, but like, listen to this. This dude wins an Olympic medal. He's asked how he's feeling, and this is what he says.
For et halvt år siden så møtte jeg mitt livs kjærlighet. Verdens vakreste, fineste person. Og for 3 måneder siden så gjorde jeg min største tabbe og var utro mot henne. Og det fortalte jeg for en uke siden.
Dude, he said what now? If you didn't catch that, if you're listening to this at home on your favorite podcast platform, the dude admits to cheating on his girlfriend. He's like, this is a great moment, but all I've been thinking about is how 6 months ago I cheated on my girlfriend and she was the real gold medal. Dude, what was the question that prompted that answer? Look, man, I'm a pretty messy guy, just in general, right? I shoot from the hip, from the cuff, whatever. But like, dude, if you're going to be sloppy in your personal life, look, that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but keep it to your damn self. You take this moment and you're like, I'm going to air out my girlfriend who I've been cheating on. I've been banging this other chick, but I'm going to talk about her. And I'm going to tell everybody that I've not been faithful. Dude, do better. Don't be so sloppy. It's embarrassing. I mean, it's hilarious. It's not funny because you feel sorry for the other woman. But like, could you imagine? Like, what was he thinking about this while he was skiing? How do you shoot straight when you're thinking like that? All I could think about was how I had the real gold medal at home. Bro. I don't know. Of all the moments in your life and the confluences of things happening in your life, that. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, over the last week or so, there has been some serious blows to those of us that are fans of 90s movies or even newer television shows, right? A couple of unfortunate deaths, right? I mean, certainly we've been talking about, we haven't, but Catherine O'Hara, who passed away, who'd been in so many hilarious movies, including both Home Alones, and then she was in Schitt's Creek as well. And then, today I saw that the Beek had passed away. I mean, James Van Der Beek was a 1990s icon. He wasn't on Dawson's Creek. He was Dawson's Creek. He was Dawson. And then he also, in one of my all-time favorite movies, I was 14 years old when this came out. And it's like teen romance, sports movie, but also kind of like a soap opera. Obviously, I'm talking about Varsity Blues. And you get the greatest line of all time.
Your attitude's wrong. Your tone of voice is wrong. This is your opportunity
For
here.
you, playing football at West Canaan may have been the opportunity of your lifetime, but I don't want your life.
I mean, I've been saying that. I say that all the time, just out of nowhere. I don't say it in response to like my dad or anybody for that matter. But, movies like that helped shape like my view of pop culture in childhood. And, unfortunately now, if you look back on it, Paul Walker is no longer with us either. And he was in that movie. I mean, both relatively young dudes, and Paul Walker's been gone for way too long. But man, Varsity Blues, it's got like this kind of Rocky type feel. And I can't remember if it was before or after the movie Friday Night Lights. The book had already been out. The TV show was not out yet. And the book and the movie were pretty close. The TV show was not. I didn't watch the TV show. But it was just, Ollie Larder, Elizabeth Smart. It was just such a bad movie. I can't think, I'm drawing a huge blank. I can't believe I'm doing it. Who's Angelina Jolie's dad? He's an all-time great bad guy. So good. I can't think of his name. It'll come to me after I stop recording. Yeah, James Van Der Beek passed away earlier today, and it just, I started thinking about, I didn't watch Dawson's Creek. That was not really my thing. But Varsity Blues, this song is catchy, though. Paula Cole. I mean, the sound of the 1990s. But James Van Der Beek in Varsity Blues as Jonathan Moxon, where he's like this brooding, smart, aloof when it comes to football quarterback, and his dad's like this kind of tight-assed, I wish I was better at sports, living my dream through my kid. And of course, Moxon ends up going to Brown. Paul Walker becomes the head coach. It's just, he doesn't get to go to Florida State because he has that horrible leg injury. It's a great movie. And is it a great movie? Great movie? I mean, do I love that movie? Hell yes. R.I.P. to James Van Der Beek. That was a bummer. Well, I guess I'm being played out. That'll do it for the ZC show. Thanks for joining us. We are live on Instagram. No, I take that back. We are live on YouTube and Twitch every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern. You can catch some reels or some TikToks on Instagram and TikTok as well. Couldn't do it without you. Couldn't do it without the folks at Odyssey. We'll do it again next Wednesday. Peace.